So, hi everyone, I'm Kevin from Leboncoin, and I will present to you how we actually be basically from an observer of this whole MCP and new technology to actually creating an OpenAI app and be in the, after a few weeks and few days, one of the first in Europe to be there. Yeah, it's live, yeah. So just a quick context for especially people outside of France. Who are we? So Leboncoin is a 20 years old company. It's an old company. They've been in the internet before I got access or allowed to be in a computer. So yeah, that's quite old. We are also a big company, like 1,500 people, more than 700 engineers, a lot of legacy stack, a lot of things. So all of that for what? So when we see this old MCP ChatGPT thing, that wasn't our first rodeo, okay? This is like one of the many technology we saw. For those that remember that blockchain will change everything and thing like this, like when we started to see that, like we weren't sure exactly how to position ourselves, or it will actually change our industry or not. So when we saw that, and it goes dark. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. So you will have just to listen to me, okay? So this is my bad, really sorry. But this is just a story. Let's just go there, okay? So as I mentioned, this is just like one of the drill, one of the things that are happening. The thing is, when you are this old company, like creating this innovation, going there can be quite difficult. You have a lot of engineers that have other things to do. We have financial goals to be there. And also, as I mentioned, we have 30 million users using us every month. So these users are not like the cool kids, like the 15 or 20 years old, going on their phone, trying the new technology. They are 40, 50, 60 years old people that discover internet, and internet is hard for them. So when you see this kind of technology happening, you have to be careful on how you implement that. But be careful for your users, but also be careful for your engineers, because they are exhausted to see all these technologies. So what we did was actually be really careful. So we just observed on like these famous sentences like il est urgent d'attendre, it's really urgent to wait. So what we give is just like, okay, engineers, you're allowed to use this MCP thing only on your laptop, not on production data, just for fun on this little time we gave you outside of your other projects. I think like this security thing, the fact that we didn't really understood the production impact and how actually it will interact with everyone was really difficult. But actually, what's really fun is that engineers actually like to try new things and to actually discover all the bumps and all these concerns for the company. It was really nice to see like all the engineers looking and playing with the cloud code integration, the codex integration, and all this kind of MCP. And actually, they even create some stuff by their own, on their own time. And actually, it allowed us to understand, yes, this is not secure. All the things which we talk about the MCP, that just in the previous presentation, thank you very much, about the transport, on how it will scale or not, the session, the cookie, actually was discovered by those engineers. So when you go there, you start to understand something. This is all what we understood. MCP is not just an API integration. You can do a one-to-one tool API thing. This is not just an API for the LLMs. It brings way more information, actually. When you build an API, why do you build it? You build for the UI. You build for another computer to be consumed and to be interpreted for building your UI. You build for users that have fingers and that will explore your thing. When you build an MCP, it's not just data, it's the intent. Is what you want to bring from your product to the LLM, and the LLM doesn't have a finger, it doesn't see in the traditional way. So this is all on what we understood when doing this experimentation. We often see and listen that MCP is USB-C, but USB-C is still computer to computer. Here, you just have a new user, which is an LLM. And the user doesn't care about product ID and translation and things like this. It cares about buying the product, searching for what he wants, doing stuff. And this is what we did, actually. And when we started to integrate those MCP servers, we tried to build for the intent of the LLM. And we handled that by just seeing MCP as a new channel. And just like we lived through the mobile era. So Leboncoin was there before we all got smartphones in our pockets. So we see MCP just like this. This is a new channel of distribution for our data and our apps. And we just have new users, which is LLM, which is quite new for us because we're basically moving from a B2C world that we really used to, or B2B world, to a B2B2C, because there is OpenAI, there's Anthropic, and there's all this kind of company between our really end users and us. But it was really a learning journey there. Trying to figure out, like, yeah, this is not just the API thing, just the data thing. The fact that you have this intent, this understanding, and you actually have to build product flow directly into your MCP, and actually created wonders. For example, for the OpenAI apps, which I invite you, because it's live now, to all look at Leboncoin apps in ChatGPT. Like the fact that you have to translate what is your intent, try to remove those IDs, the translation, thing like this, was really even rethinking our product. What is the user want when discussing with ChatGPT? And I think this was based on the first presentation that you saw. You need to redesign everything. This is not just bringing one button, one API to this experience. You have to rethink that. And it's actually hard, because we are not used to. Really, really not used to. Okay? So another thing we learned is that we can't go directly big. Because when you create this, or you have all this history, you have all this legacy, you have to rethink also how you work with this kind of technology. What I mean is, and this was basically the point of the second presentation, we used to HTTP. We have HA proxies, NGINX, and all this kind of technology. But when you build an MCP server, you have this long-lived session. You don't have these cookies. How do you retrieve the context, the session? Everything that was mentioned previously, from a product perspective, this is a really big change, because you can't provide exactly the same experience. So when we did that, you really think you need to re-architecture the thing, but also learn how to debug. How do you debug an MCP server? Yes, okay, there's a 404, like an internal server error. But outside of that, when there's a user coming to Slack saying, like, yeah, I searched for a flat in Paris, but I see nothing, or not the flight I want. Everything is green on Datadog or any other observability tools. How do you debug that? And the fact that you have to go through this intent. So this is what you think, like you have to rethink all the architecture you have. And then if you go to the next slide, sorry, really sorry for this technical issue, but you have this kind of really weird bugs. And if you see, actually, I left it because I generated this presentation through AI. You see there, this is the bug I'm talking about. This is perfectly correct from AI perspective. He put a title with the title font as a title name. Okay? And I left it in purpose because it was funny, because this is on the debug slide. I wanted to show the bugs we actually saw during those MCP integration. Sometimes they call you with the wrong information. They call you because they don't really understood what you expected in your MCP. And this is where I say, for me, I treat it as a users. Because as users, they don't really understand the interface. You have to be really explicit in the input schema and output schema, and how you have to handle that. And this is what we learned on the road. But it was really tricky to understand, actually, was our input schema. The sentence was a little bit fluffy, so you didn't understood the colors on how to provide like a car brand and things like this. If you go to the next slide. But at the end, we succeed. At the end, we have these ChatGPT apps, which is to be honest, really shallow at the moment, but it brought a lot of learning with us. And I think I tried to display or share some of them with you. And it allows a new experience. And this is what we wanted when we work with OpenAI there. And this is what they expect. I think they've been clear, and they're right. Because when you expect from a chat interface is not the same that you expect from a mobile app interface. The fact that you have a conversation, all the filters, all the thing, gone. So you can explore the catalog on the ads we have in Leboncoin in another way, in a more natural way. But we saw other challenges that we didn't solve yet, but we want to, is how do you explore? How do you bring the ID? If you don't know that Leboncoin provide that, how do you tell the user that we have? When you're in a website, you can click on buttons, you can do like this manual search, but you can't do that in a chat. If there is no option provided to you, it's really hard to imagine they have them. So how do you do that? We don't know yet. The other thing is the transaction. I know OpenAI is working on that, but how do you trust through this chat, or do you simplify this transactional integration into a chat when there's no like this all security display or window or thing that try to reassure you and you used to, because we talk about money and goods, or do we create this trust in this kind of process? This is something that we will have to work on. I know there's a lot of working from other partners, but yeah. Next slide. And yeah, we talk also because, of course, there's all this kind of technology, RAG, MCP. And if I try to summarize, we work with this all RAG integration. But as you can see, and I think a lot of you have tried to play with that, RAG is just the librarian. Okay, there's a bookshelf, a lot of things. And we try to see more the MCP more as the negotiator, but more as a librarian, the people you will see because you have a specific need, a specific action, a specific intent to solve. Not necessarily give me all the books about X or Y topic. This all agents thing, or the agent to e-commerce, will be, I think, a really change in our industry for Leboncoin, but I think in a lot of the industry, but mostly in our usage and how we integrate and how we think about buying something. Now that we have phones compared to before, we just go to Amazon or everything, or Leboncoin, you buy stuff you want and that's it. The relationship with the transaction have changed. The rules have changed, and we start to see that in our little app, but I think it will be a really nice and interesting next years. Next slide. Yeah. What if I want to summarize some of my presentation is like, this is a new technology, but not just a new protocol or just something you do on the side, like a new database. Okay, this is like a really hidden somewhere. It changes all your architecture, it changes how you do things. And yeah, I play a lot of games, as you may understood. And I think there is this sentence from that game, like, for those who come after. And I see it in two ways. Here, I think in Leboncoin, we try to really understood all the engineers and all our products will build on top of what we understood and not just rushing into creating things. But I think this is true also for community. Here, MCP Connect days, this is also what we start to build. The presentation we saw from OpenAI or Hugging Face just this morning, this is what we try to build. What will be the next generation? What do we want from after? This is why I interpret that. And yes, we try to avoid toxic debt. We try to avoid that debt. And I think this is, or we think we avoid it, at least in part. Next line. And some new takeaways. So yeah, MCP is not just API integration, it brings intent, not just data. It's a product architecture. Okay, just providing the MCP doesn't bring users, doesn't bring traffic, doesn't bring revenue. You have to rethink about that. And you have to rethink how your product is consumed. Not just your product, like, okay, Leboncoin basically resell goods or create connection between people that want to sell something and people that want to buy something. But you have to rethink how it's consumed, how you interact with that. And that don't just build connectors, they're translator, and then your new users are agents. This is like a B to A to C commerce, business to agent to consumer kind of thing. And you need to take that into account. Yeah, thank you very much. Next slide.
I don't see any questions on the Q&A, but is there anyone with any questions in the room?
I mean, from the very little time that you've been live, what's the kind of like traffic that you've seen to the app?
Zero for the moment because it was live this morning. So I wasn't, so we had some technical issues that, I may speak with OpenAI directly, but this is different thing.
So, and in terms of like expectations that you've got for the app throughout the year, in terms of...
Okay, so what we expect is we don't know. No, but to be honest and to be true, is like this is an experiment because we don't know if our users will interact in a way we think. From the internal, so all the internal people in Leboncoin, so the 1,500 people in the company have access to the app, and for the moment they try like it. They find it faster to better at finding what you actually expect on once. So we have huge expectation for the app, but not right the moment in the traffic area. So we will communicate, we will see, and we hope we will be able to bet and to increase, but we don't know what to expect because, as I mentioned, our user base is not the technical, we are used to in the technical world. There are more 40, 50 years old people that may not have a ChatGPT subscription. So we don't know exactly what to expect. But we want to invest in that.
Just behind on the... So on that note, right, you mentioned intent many times that you may ask one thing and then LLM will think something different or something else in your MCP. Do you use any evals, any analytics to try to trace that?
Yes. So basically, we're trying at the moment 2 solutions, one from Datadog and one from Longsmith. So yes, we try to understand if we answered correctly. And for example, in the MCP, I try to track the number of tool calls in one session, like the MCP session, to try to see if we answer correctly. And another thing is I have like a fallback tool. So I have dedicated search for specific categories to provide better understanding for the LLM. And I have like a catch trap, like a global search. And I try to track how many times the LLM just go into this global trap to see if the tool, the MCP is correctly set up, but also if the intent of the user was correctly set up. So yes, we tried that. Is it efficient? We will see.
Yes, I know that you explained that the current app is like recent basic, but do you think that the fact to put a ChatGPT app can unlock some capabilities that you didn't have Leboncoin on your current user experience?
Yeah, so one of the problems with Leboncoin is that we sell everything, okay? So you can find a car, a flat, a house, or video games, or a new smartphone, or a chair, like a table or a couch. Like you can find everything. If you look at the filters, like all to specify how you want something, this is intimidating. So yeah, in how you interact and how you discover, we think there may be something new there that we couldn't build before. And the other part that we only think about it and we just have internal proof of concept is how do you explore that in a way that is not just you surfing on the web. What I mean is like in Leboncoin you may have safe search. Like we know you search for a flat in Paris because you want to move in a bigger flat or a better one. But the thing is, how do you actually try to extend that and try to be proactive in all you answer? Because here you have the full intent of the user. You have like what they actually search for, not exactly how they play with the filtering system. So maybe we will be able to push something a little wider, like, okay, but based on what we know, on what the memory system. Are you sure this is like this is maybe your dream flat, but the more realistic one is this one? So this is what we may unlock, but it's more, we will see.
Sorry.
I think it will be the last one, I suspect.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
How much time, it's estimated time,
Yeah.
did you take to build the ChatGPT app?
Okay, so let's remove the learning phase. Until when we actually knew what we wanted to build, actually it was quick. Based on all the tools, documentation, skills, and code, it was actually 2 weeks job for myself. So actually it was quite simple. The functionality are quite simple if you play with it, which I encourage you to do. But actually based on with all the code, on all the everything we already built. So what I think I didn't mention in the presentation, but one of the challenges was to integrate in our current monorepo in Go. So everything I built was following the standard of 10 years of coding and practices. So actually that took the most time, but also was able to leverage that for code on Codex to work and build that for me. So actually 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Hope the technical issue was fine.
Thank you, Kevin.